Hello, good evening, everyone. My name is Omolara Ishola. I am the host of Possibilities Divine, and today we're going to be talking about acute or chronic issues in marriage. And you're all welcome to join me. We're going to be discussing certain issues, and may I say at this junction that this particular episode is for people who are relatively new in marriage. You are just trying to cut your teeth, you are trying to get to understand each other, and you are rubbing each other wrongly. And you're wondering, have I married the wrong person? Have I made a mistake? This particular live stream titled Acute or Chronic Issues in Marriage is meant for you. And I'm hoping that by the grace of God, you're going to be able to pick one or two things that would help you to be able to get over the bumps that you might be experiencing right now. Again, I would like to say that marriage is beautiful. Marriage is a wonderful idea conceived by God. And it is such a blessing to us human beings that if we're able to understand just the same way we understand the use of a product by reason of constantly contacting the manual for how to set it up, how the functionalities and how to troubleshoot, then I have no doubt in my mind that we will have blissful and successful marriages. All things being equal, when both partners are looking to work and make effort in making marriage blissful, the result is always rewarding. So tonight I welcome you, acute or chronic issues in marriage. So when we talk about acute, what does it mean? As a medical professional, I work in the marriage department. And so most of the people that we see there are people who have acute cases. They have to be attended to. And I'm talking about true cases. You have people who have maybe cardiac issues. They have chest pain, or they're vomiting, or they have abdominal pain, or they've had trauma. And usually when people like that come into the emerge, everybody is running around. Something has to be done immediately. Otherwise, the consequences are likely to be grave. For example, if somebody has experienced a motor vehicle collision and they come into the emergency department, there's no way we can put them and say, okay, wait. Maybe people will typically wait for 2 hours. We can't allow somebody who has undergone trauma to wait. Immediately you're hearing the doctor barking orders. Something start, because the situation has to be mitigated. We have to reduce the risk and the damages and even prevent death. So in marriage, what are acute issues? Issues that can affect you negatively to the point of either you shutting down or threatening your very existence. One example will be abuse. Abuse in all its ramifications. For example, if you're talking about psychological abuse, you're talking about financial abuse, you're talking about physical abuse, you're talking about sexual abuse. Any form of abuse is acute in any marriage relationship. For example, when you are constantly being talked down to, when you're constantly being reduced, then in marriage, the marriage can't function. It can't be a healthy marriage. It will be a dysfunctional marriage. And so that's why when you observe any symptom that makes it look as if this marriage relationship is sick, you need to quickly find solution. And one of the ways you find solution is by sitting down, hearing from people who are experienced, godly people who can encourage you, who can advise you. And if you discover that it's something that can be life-threatening, usually you are encouraged to step away temporarily from such relationships. However, tonight we're going to look at some issues. They might be acute, but they are not life-threatening. However, they can impact your marriage negatively if they're not well handled. One of such is communication. Communication is just basically getting information from one person to the other. For example, you want to say something to your spouse. It's not just enough to verbally communicate. You can communicate verbally, you can write, you can use your body language, the different means of communication. But the whole essence of communication is that the person the message is intended for understands very well. However, in marriage, we have a lot of challenges communicating with our spouses. Why is that so? For example, I remember the early days of marriage, if I can use myself as an example. And I said, the reason why I use myself as an example is because I have come a very long way. And if God could help me, God could help anybody who might be having challenges. I had been single for a good period of time. And so I learned to take decisions on my own. I'd learned to I go to work, I come back. I was basically in charge of my timing. I did whatever I liked to a large extent. And all of a sudden, I got married. And I'm expected to tell the other person, minute by minute, what I intend to do. And so sometimes I forget. And I just carry on. I remember a particular instance. And it wasn't just because I ran wild with friends or anything. We had a women's meeting in church. I think it must have been a midweek meeting that we had. We were preparing for something big. And I had so many other women who had come, and I was going to drop them off at home. I only mentioned to my husband that I was going to go for a meeting after work, and which I did. But I forgot to also update him that I will be dropping people off at the different exits of the town after the meeting. I think the meeting ran till about 9 p.m. and I had to take some people to the east, some people to the northeast. And eventually, by the time I got home, it was almost 11 o'clock. My poor husband was standing by the door. He was frustrated. He was miserable. God bless us. It wasn't the days of cell phone, so he couldn't track me down. So the poor guy was worried. I think I was pregnant at that time. So he was really, really worried, wondering what has happened to this girl. And I came in and I was like, why is he upset? I couldn't understand why he was upset. After all, I mentioned to you that I was going to be at a meeting, but I did not tell him that that meeting was going to last till midnight. So I miscommunicated. And when he got upset and he was telling me, why didn't you tell me? I said, I told you. But he said, you didn't tell me it was going to be this late. So oftentimes when we have been independent for a while, we fail to understand that the other person needs to be updated from time to time so that we remain on the same page. Sometimes yours might not be something as simple as mine. It might be a lot more complex than that. Do you have secrets? Do you have things that you did maybe when you were single? Maybe you had your own bank account, you had everything, and you didn't come clean totally when you got married. You still kept some things away from your spouse. And now maybe he's the one getting messages, or maybe he's discovered some things and he's wondering, can I really trust this man? Can I really trust this woman? Depending on who is not coming out clean. So communication in marriage is very essential. So if you're married and your spouse is having challenges understanding or getting the message you are sending, it's important for you to both settle down and revisit the topic of communication. For example, I've been married for 2-3 years and my spouse doesn't even know the kind of job that I do. You'll be surprised that that happens. So if he doesn't know what I do, how would you know the kind of money I earn? So I do my own thing. I just do me. We're husband and wife. However, when it comes to money, we are separate individuals. And somebody says, oh, before you go there, are you talking about joint account? No, I'm not talking about joint account because joint account does not always work for everybody. However, it's important for each person to know what the other person has. There's some people who will talk about joint account and it works very well. Both people, they put money in the same account. A knows what goes out of that account. B knows what goes out of that account. And they are able to manage it very well. Beautiful. For some people, joint account is the bane of the relationship because one person feels cheated because I don't spend as much as the other party. And so because my husband is the one who's always spending money, I feel cheated, even though I contribute towards that fund, towards that purse. Or I work so hard. I'm the one who brings the lion's share as the man. And my wife's family always have things that I have to cater to financially. And so even though I work so hard, I don't use that much money. My wife is the one who is constantly, or maybe in a situation where you have a wife who doesn't even work. So the man is responsible for all the bills. He's responsible for taking care of his wife and children. He's also responsible for taking care of the wife's family. So it is very important for you to come out straight and say, you know what, we are going to have a joint account. We're going to have separate accounts. But whatever you do, just make sure it works for your family and that it does not lead to more chronic problems as you go on. if you as a single person, if you have secrets that you have not let your husband in on, it will form the foundation for bigger problems down the road. We talked about making your intent known. Are you planning something in your head? And this happens with women. You're planning and you have an idea of what you want to do, but you have not verbally communicated. And maybe you've dropped a hint here and there, and you expect the guy to put things together and understand where your brain is. But he's not doing that, and you get upset thinking he's very slow or he's not being supportive. If you want something to be done, verbalize it, spell it out, say it to the other person, tap the other person, honey, darling, whatever, this is my thought. What do you think about it? And when they're able to provide their own contribution, then they would have a say. They would know where things are. They would ask for updates and say, okay, what's going on about this and this? So it becomes ours as opposed to yours. When it is yours, you are thinking and planning it in your head. And if you come across challenges, you're the only one who will be battling with it. So always make your intent known. Do you say yes without weighing the consequence? My husband saved me from myself not too long ago. A friend of mine was turning something and she needed help. And I was like, oh, sure, by all means. And so I told my husband, you know, I'm going to be helping so and so, so and so. He said, really? Have you checked your dates? Have you weighed it vis-a-vis your other responsibilities? And even though I had good intentions, it would have become really bad, because when I looked at my schedule, when I looked at the consequence, when I looked at so many other things that I have not thought about, I thank God that I was able to share that with my husband before going ahead to say yes, because I would have really turned around to become a bad person because I didn't weigh the consequence of my yes. So either as a man or as a woman, before you commit yourself to somebody else or to a particular project, run it by your spouse, run it by people who would have a say, and make sure that you weigh the options of the things you are communicating, that you're not just running away or running wild saying, yes, I'm going to do this. I have committed to this thing. I'm going to be doing that. And so that's about the size of it. So do not say yes without weighing the consequence. Never assume your spouse should know what you are thinking. How many of us do that? You're having an idea in your mind, and you're thinking he should know now. Or maybe you're concluding and you expect your husband to know where that's going to end. And you're like, I thought I mentioned it. And the guy will be like, I have no clue. Maybe you mentioned it, but you didn't tell me you were pursuing it, or you were moving further in doing it. So it's not just enough to have an idea in your head. Always remember to remember to keep the other person posted about what you're doing. Let them know, okay, this is what I plan to do. I intend to go and babysit for a day. And what does that mean to my own family? Time away. Can I afford that? Have I made other plans, even in my own home? If I'm expecting my husband to step up to the plate, have I run the same idea by him? Does he know? Do I make women's commitment? I'm going to be cooking for the whole church, and my husband has no idea. Maybe that's the day he intends to just sleep. And I expect him to give me a hand with one thing or the other by reason of the environment we are. Or what exactly? So if you're going to commit yourself into something, make sure you let the other person know before you make that kind of commitment, so that you are not just creating problems in your own home. Do not hide secrets. I think I've mentioned that already. When you communicate, how do you do it? What is usually your body language? Do you threaten? Do you intimidate when you're communicating? For example, your friend will be visiting. Maybe you're as a husband, your friends will be visiting. They are coming, a family of 4. You just said, oh, by the way, so-and-so is arriving tomorrow. And the wife is like, arriving where? And you're like, my friend, my childhood friend, we went to high school together, we went to uni, so he's in town and he's spending 3 weeks with us. And the woman says, no, I have plans. You're like, you're not cooperative. This is our home. But if you have not told her, if you have not weighed your own plans vis-a-vis her plans, you have not communicated well. Maybe you mentioned, oh, my buddy, we went to high school together. He's likely to come to wherever. Have you told that woman the expectation? Have you told her the responsibility that she will be shouldering for 3 weeks? So it is important, even though these things are not life-threatening, they can impact your relationship, your own relationship, negatively if they are not well handled. So it is very important that when you have plans in your own head, communicate with your spouse so that you are both on the same page. And when you communicate in love, especially if you're requesting something. For example, if I need my husband to do something for me, do I bully him? Do I make it compulsory for him? Do I threaten him through my action and attitude? Do I give him cold treatment just because I want to force him to do something? And the same goes for a man. I'm the head in this home. I'm paying the bills. So if I say we want to do something, then we have to do it. No. The way you can maintain peace in your family is for both of you to take decisions, especially when they're not life-threatening decisions. You must be able to bring your wife along to say, my friend is visiting. I'm not sure if it is okay. Every time my husband does that, I feel very, very humbled. I don't think I have ever had any opportunity to say no. When he says, okay, even if it's last minute, my uncle is coming, my long-lost friend is coming, and I'm like, oh, wow, really nice. And the same thing goes for me. Sometimes I just discover that somebody that I know is in town. My husband will be like, oh, where are they staying? Why should they be staying there? Let them come here. And I don't even have to struggle, because when it's his turn, that's the same way I handle it. However, my husband would always politely ask me, even though he's the head, even though he can command, if he says, I want my friend to come, I won't say no, but it might be a very difficult time for us, especially if I'm not aware. But that's the reason why it's important for you to involve your spouse and involve them the right way, as in a way that they will feel, okay, I have a say in this as well. Do you talk too much? You know, we're talking about communication, getting the message across to the person you intended for. Do you talk too much, whether as a man or as a woman? If you as a man talk too much, you make it very difficult for your wife to catch up, especially if you have a very quiet wife. Most of the time I discover that opposites attract. You find a very quiet man married to a woman who can talk 19 to a dozen, and vice versa. Sometimes the man is the one who is the talker, and the wife will just be the one sitting down there just watching and just being amused or being disgusted at what the spouse is saying. So does your husband talk too much? As a husband, have you heard it that you talk too much? Then you need to pay attention, because you will easily get your wife into trouble. She doesn't know what you have said. She doesn't know the promises you have made. And all of a sudden, people are asking her, oh, your husband told us you're buying a new car. Your husband told us you now have 15 houses. Your husband told us. And the woman, maybe those things are still in the formative stage where you're still planning. And she's like, oh, really? And when she doesn't agree, they say she's secretive. So when you talk too much, you get your better half into trouble, because it's either perceived. If it's a woman who talks too much, maybe you want to feel big among your friends, and you say, maybe your husband said, oh, I would like to change my car, and he hasn't even specified the kind of car he wants to buy, but he had mentioned that would a range be nice? Would a Maserati? You know, by now you all know that I like Maserati. Maybe it's just the name or the car, well, whatever. Oh, and already you go to your friends and say, hey, by the way, my husband is buying me a Maserati. He's not buying it for you. Maybe it's just a family car. Maybe he just wants to change your car or change his car, and he will allow you to drive it. But already in a bid to appear big, you start telling your friends, man, we're buying a Maserati next week. And maybe something happens. And the man doesn't want to go ahead with that plan. You not only make yourself a liar, it looks bad on him. So when you talk too much and somebody has told you at one point or the other, then you need to minimize how much communication. Some people over communicate while some under communicate. But whatever you do in a marriage relationship, you need to meet halfway and strike a balance. And like I said, when your husband talks too much, it might not be a life-threatening thing. It might not be a bad thing. It might just be the way he is. However, if it is too much and it gets you into trouble, sit down and talk to him and reach a conclusion, and also recommend things that you think he can do or ways that he can change. And on communication, I wish you all the very best for those who have issues, and I hope you're blessed with one thing or the other. The next main thing is family responsibilities. Family responsibilities. We all came from different families. I came from a different family. My husband came from a different family. And now together we are building our own family. And that is our nuclear family. The family I came from and the family he came from become our extended families. Yes, my daughter was saying it the other day. She said, how, so a time will come when you will become my extended family. I said, that's right. When you will build your own family, and I will just, so I don't want you to be an outsider in my family. I said, I know. However, you will have to build a life with your own husband and you have your own children. And so when we see things from that perspective, we don't get bitter. For example, I can't expect that my parents will have the same say that my husband has in the family that we're building. I love my siblings. I love my family members, but this is my family and it's going to be very different from the family I originated from. So how do I build my family in such a way that my extended family does not take away from the structure we are putting in place, from the cohesion and the love? A lot of us will say, so does that mean I will hide secrets from my mother? You don't have to hide any secret. However, your mom does not have to know everything that goes on in your family. As a family, if you, for example, when you get pregnant, should you call your mom and tell her immediately? Make sure your husband is on side with that before you do so. Oh, what are you talking about? The same woman that conceived me. Agreed. But if your husband is such that says, okay, you know what? We're not telling my parents. We're not telling your parents until such and such a time as this. Then you need to respect that. This is not encouraging being secretive or anything. However, when you're building a life together with somebody else, it's important that you both be on the same page. Not that, whether you believe it or not, your mother becomes a third party. Not that your mother will be the one to know more than your spouse. Nevertheless, I understand that there are certain situations where things might not work normally, and then you will have to seek solace in your mother and all that. But if you have a very good relationship, but you just think my mom should be the one to know everything, you are putting your husband in a very precarious place. What if it is the man who feels my mom must know everything? Then you're putting your wife in a very dangerous place as well. It's good for your mother to be aware of everything that is going on in your world. It's good for your mom to know pretty much when your wife conceived, when you're this, that, when you get your promotion, when you get, however, make sure you keep your partner on the same page so that they know what is going on. I have a lot of people who would watch this video after, people in diaspora. And I must say at this time that, you know, we get in-laws who come to visit. Maybe your mom comes to visit and she's helping you with the children. If it is your if it's your mother-in-law that is visiting, understand that that woman does not automatically become your slave. Yes, she's coming to help, but you need to set boundaries as a man. What will mama be doing? What are the things that she'll be helping out with? What are the hours? So we both go out in the morning, we come back in the evening. We don't expect her to cook, to clean, to wash, to do everything. If that woman does that for a long time at her age, remember she's already taking care of your husband and her own children. She's not supposed to take care of your own children. Yes, she can help you while she's here, do whatever she needs to do, but that's about it. The minute you're back from work, your husband should take over playing with the children, you should take over cooking, or vice versa. Or you can all make it a joint effort. Maybe mama will be cooking something special or whatever. But make sure that whoever comes to help you does not become your slave. And also, if it's still on the mother-in-law issue, if it's the guy's mother who is visiting, please do not let her turn your wife into a slave. The woman who goes to work, or even if she doesn't go to work, mama expects that woman to wait on her hands and foot. I want chocolate to drink. I want orange juice. And she's constantly bringing those things. And it doesn't matter how busy she is. I want to go for a walk. Take me to the mall. Take me to go and buy things. And that is what that woman does consistently. And she's tired. When she tries to say anything, you're like, mama has only been around for 3 weeks. Why are you making life difficult? Have you sat down to listen to both sides? Whether you like it or not, you are the man, and it is your responsibility to make sure you set the boundaries for your mother and for your wife. When your mother comes, your wife should not ill-treat her. When your mother comes, your wife should not overwork her. when your mother comes, she deserves respect, she deserves honor, and she deserves dignity. That's what you owe her, which both you and your wife should make sure you give to her. When your mother-in-law comes, which is your wife's mother, she deserves honor, she deserves respect. Usually when the woman's mother is the one visiting, the woman can relax, mommy, go and mommy help me this, mommy help me that. But that doesn't mean that you should also, as a man, turn the woman into a slave. Accord your mother-in-law the honor and the dignity she deserves. So it doesn't matter whose mom is visiting. Mothers are helpers, they are caring. However, we must give them their honor. When your mother comes, it is not for her to be making demands on your husband. I went to the mall. I saw this gold bag. I went to the mall. I saw this silver chain. I went to the mall. No. Set boundaries. Make it healthy boundaries. Your mother does not have to know everything that goes down. So anytime you are fighting or having disagreement with your husband, your mother automatically knows, and she's looking for an opportunity to lecture and to page your husband. That's how it's supposed to be. Your mother must give your husband the honor that he deserves, even though he is her son-in-law. Your husband also must give your mother the honor that she deserves, even though she's her mother-in-law, and not just sending her on any errand or making demands. So when we have family members coming in, don't automatically start talking to your mother as a man in your native language. When you do that, you alienate your wife. For example, there's some stories that your wife, maybe you've not told her, she doesn't know, and you and your mother are talking about it, and you're laughing and you're laughing. And gradually, for the period of maybe 3 months that your mom is around, your wife feels like a stranger even in her home. There hasn't been any major issue. You haven't had any disagreement, but there is friction because she feels like an outsider in her home. Maybe you're not from, maybe you're from one of the tribes, and your mom has a specific way she cooks your stew. And she goes, I have made your stew the way you like it. Your wife doesn't eat pepper. Your mom cooks pepper, and it can burn anybody's tongue. And you're like, mommy, I love the way you make it. That means your wife is not going to partake of that stew, no matter how special. So these are some things that we need to pay attention to. You don't do those things consciously. However, unconsciously, they affect your home. They affect your relationship. As a woman, do not always fight with your husband when your in-laws are around. Yes, in-laws tend to have excesses. However, always try to be approachable and amiable as possible. When your in-laws are visiting, don't let that be the time there's constant fight between you and your husband, between you and the in-laws. If there are any issues, don't be overly confrontational. Call your husband. Let him draw the line. Let him set the boundaries. And if you think, oh, my husband doesn't have the liver to do that, you don't know him, talk to him and say, I need you to do this. Otherwise, I'll be doing it. And it does not look good when I do it. And that would give him a bit of courage to do what he needs to do. I believe every man should be the CEO of his home. That means it gets to a point where you're able to say, Mommy, no, my wife will not be doing that. And there also comes a time when you say, sweetie, thank you, but no, Mommy will not be doing that. And maintaining that balance as the man is very important. You notice that it's always been the wife or the mother-in-law. Hardly would a father-in-law give undue stress. That is not to take away from the fact that sometimes you have such father-in-laws. And so what you do also is to respect them, but allow your husband to be the one to call the shot. And if it is if it is a woman's father who is having excesses, which rarely happens, also you are to rein your parents in and say, Daddy, no, don't say that. Daddy, please don't do this. It's embarrassing. You are my father, and I don't want my husband to be disrespectful in any way or manner. And I know that when you come from a position of wanting to make things happen, things will happen positively. If, as a woman, your mother is overbearing, she wants to know how much your husband earns. She wants to know how much you earn. She wants to know how many houses you guys have. She wants to know how many children you have. She wants to know all those details. There is a way you have to politely tell mommy and say, no, mommy, this is just between my husband and I. And, with humor, with something, just diffuse it. You don't have to be rude, and she doesn't have to be in the know of everything. Also, if you're a mother-in-law, you are the guy's mother. Don't go into their house wanting to know why they eat so many pieces of meat, or why they eat fish, or if they've decided to be vegan, they only eat vegetables. That so be it. If they have not denied you of your own pieces of meat, then let them be. As mothers, we could be overly protective. However, God wants us to be a different vanguard of mothers, Christian mothers, that will be able to show the light and the love of God to our children as well as our children-in-law. When you understand who your parents are, it's important for you to defend your spouse from them. For example, as a guy, if your mother is problematic, I know nobody wants to believe that about their parents, but you know your mother, you know her very well, you know how demanding she could be. Protect your wife from her. How do you do that? Make sure that when she places demand, you're always there to say, oh, mommy, don't worry, I'll do it. Or mommy, don't worry, I'll take care of that. Don't be mute. Don't be quiet. Sometimes your silence is roaring because you're not doing anything. The woman assumes it's okay. And your wife is laboring, she's slavering, even in her own home. So those things, when you look at it on the outside, it might not be life-threatening. Nobody's dying, nobody's screaming, nobody's shouting. But those things lead to chaos eventually, because a day will come when the woman will just say, you know what, I've had enough. And you don't want that. And so as a godly man, it's important for you to be able to understand responsibilities, family responsibilities. Yes, my younger brother needs to pay for his jam. My younger sister needs to pay for her wedding. And on like that. There's constant demands from your side. At what point do you say, you know what? I have my own personal responsibilities. I have my own children. I have my own wife, and I need to take care of them, which is the fact, because you need to take care of your own family. That is why you have brought that woman into your world to share a world. And she's not supposed to, she's not supposed to curse the day she met you. And I know that over time, you'll get over your differences as you begin to understand that it is not wrong for you as a woman to say, my dear, I feel stressed, I'm pressured. Can you help me? This is how you can help me. And as long as she's realistic, she's reasonable, step in and help and curb any excesses, either from your parents' side or from your own side. Interpersonal differences. Interpersonal differences have never been anything major, but they are little things that can bring cracks into the wall of our relationship. For example, habits. If as a woman, there's certain habits and your husband has spoken, maybe talking on the phone on ending. You're always talking on the phone, not anything constructive. No, you're not a customer service rep. You don't walk over the phone, but you're always talking about friends. The people are always, your house and your phone is where people get the hottest gist. They know what's going on in the world. And your husband has said, stop it. Even in the church, everybody knows you. And you're constantly talking and talking and talking. If it's not about pastor, it is about his wife. If it's not about that, it is about sister so-and-so, brother so-and-so, how they manage their life, how they fail to manage it, how the people who are rich, the people who are poor, the people who are struggling, the people who are slave mamas. You know all of them. And your husband is very constant. And he says, stop this. And you're like, what is the matter? There's nothing wrong with it. I haven't done anything. My friends are just gisting me and I'm just listening. Those differences can actually wedge a wall between you and your husband. And you now begin to say, my husband has changed. He doesn't talk to me anymore. He doesn't play with me anymore. Because you talk to the whole world. There isn't any opportunity left for him to have any decent, sensible conversation with you. And so he decides to just keep to himself. He's shutting down. And so when you observe any of these habits, that's from a woman's perspective. What about a man? What are the habits? You hang out with your friend. You have friends that you hang out with till very late. Maybe not a whole lot of people in diaspora because you don't have the time. But maybe in the environment where you live, you can hang out till whenever. You go to the club. You don't drink, but you're constantly with the boys. And the time that you're supposed to spend at home with your wife, you spend it, or maybe even with the children, getting to know them. You spend with the boys. And what do the boys discuss? They discuss business. Over time, they discuss girls. And before you know it, you find out that evil company corrupts good manners. So what are those habits that you know are not positive? Maybe you believe the worst about your spouse. Somebody says, I greeted your wife yesterday in church. She just answered me. You come home, you lash out at her. And that's why. So-and-so told me they greeted you. You didn't respond well. So-and-so told me and on like that. Those are habits that you picked up over time, and you believe, I can say whatever, I'm the head of this home. What about the eating habits? You eat around the clock, and you can tell from the shape you carry around, either as a man or as a woman. Some people will say, I'm stressed, I'm eating. And you have eaten and eaten and eaten to your point where you're almost blowing up. And you said, my husband is not complaining. Afterward, he knows that's the nature in a family. And the man has said it in very good ways and in very bad ways. And he saw that, okay, this thing is going to create problem. He's kept quiet. He doesn't say anything anymore. You're constantly saying, my clothes don't fit. My clothes don't fit. I need to go and shop. And that is constituting a problem. And you think, I haven't done anything. I haven't fought with him. But the things that you fail to do are the things that are fighting against your union, against the peace in your home. Can I talk about sexting? This is a new thing. Somebody says, I am not committing adultery. I don't have any affairs. But how do you flirt? Either with friends at work, either with general friends. Facebook has not made life any easier. You discover somebody that you haven't seen in a long time. Maybe you guys went out together when you were in high school, or you went out together when you were in uni, and all of a sudden you see that person. You're looking so beautiful. You are looking so gorgeous. And then you begin to send texts, pictures, and things like that. What do you think that is doing to the marriage? What do you think that is doing to the woman when she discovers those things? Or to the man when he discovers those things? What are the things that have become a habit? Even though they are not life-threatening, but they are life-threatening when you look at it eventually. So we have dealt with chronic, acute things that need correction right there and then. The other things, my husband does not know how to fold his clothes. Unfortunately, there are some things that you have to live with for the rest of your life. If you have been married for 2 years and nothing has changed that guy in terms of where to put his clothes, you will just have to manage. You will have to manage him. Somebody says, I will not agree. I wrote something on the blog not too long ago, and I wrote this many months ago, and it speaks volume to me every time I think about it. There are certain habits that I have that my spouse has. One of the things that my husband does that used to press my button when we first got married was, when you turn on the shower, and then when you're done, you turn it off. But even when you turn off the tap, the shower is still on, so that when you turn the tap on, the water from the shower blows into your face. And for the very first couple of months in marriage, it was a major challenge for me. And then I would always complain, I would disagree, I will argue, I would do this. And I saw that my husband was not changing. And then it became such a problem for me. And I prayed about it. And the Holy Spirit said, why don't you change? Why don't you start managing that? If it doesn't turn off the knob, why don't you turn it off? And I said, I have to add, that's what I do. Why does it have to change? Well, I started turning off that knob, and I didn't even notice that it had become a second nature. Those are some of the chronic issues that you probably have at home. Does your husband like to read newspapers and he will leave it on the dining table? Does he like to take his socks and not put it where it belongs? And you have fought, you have screamed, you have done everything. Let him be. Let him do him and do you. And what does that mean? It means a leopard cannot lose a spot. You just have to manage what you have. But are there good qualities about this person? Things that you say, oh my goodness, this person is phenomenal. My husband is wonderful. My wife is this. But the downside, the chronic issues they have, overlook them and manage. Medically, when when somebody comes in and they say they have gout, nobody runs around to say, what do we do? There's nothing you can do. You just give them medication, you manage it, avoid this, do this, do that, and that's it. So sometimes there's some issues in marriage that you just have to medicate. How do you medicate it? With love, with overdose of patience, with perseverance, with ability to overlook. There's so many of us, we came into marriage with an idea of how things have to be perfect. My husband has to be opening the door for me when we're going out. And if he doesn't do that, he's no longer a gentleman. Interested. By the time you have been married for a while and life becomes really busy, it is only when you are going out for special occasions that the man will remember to open the door for you. Before you can say, Jack, he's gone out in the morning to his office and you have come back late and you're running different schedules. And so he forgets that. It doesn't make him a bad person. It's just an occasion. And there will be other things that he will do to make up for you. What else, what are the faults that you find in your spouse? Instead of constantly highlighting them, why don't you start celebrating the good points about them? This my wife does very well. This my husband does very well. And before you know it, you will look at things in a better way, and you will learn to live. Life is for living. And I do hope with today's topic that we've considered, one or two things have been a blessing to you. If you have specific questions, do not hesitate to inbox them to me, and we'll look at the possibility of answering them. Marriage is a very beautiful thing. It is a wonderful institution, and God has loaded it with pleasure, with enjoyment, with help, with, every good thing that we need. And I do hope you'll make the best of yours. God bless you. Until another time, take care and walk at it.